Caleb Downs, welcome to Ohio State. That's right. The Buckeyes go into the transfer portal, land the number one player in the transfer portal, the best freshman safety in the country last year, a freshman All-American, and Alabama's leading tackler. The Buckeyes are stockpiling this 2024 defense for what could be a massive run. There's the 40-year vet over there, Tim May. There's Andy Backstrom in the middle of your screen. I am Spencer Holbrook, but you already know that by now. And by now, if you're watching this, you already know Ohio State has landed Caleb Downs from the transfer portal Friday night. A transfer portal stunner. Andy, I'm going to start with you. How surprised were you when this news was announced?
I think everyone was surprised, besides maybe a few people in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center that had confidence this would happen. This is a huge pickup for Ohio State. This would have been a huge pickup had he committed the first time around in the high school recruiting cycle. But this time they get him in the transfer portal. And what a win for Tim Walton, who is on the trail again and making a big round of applause for Ohio State. Because, look, you've got him bringing in Calvin Simpson-Hunt, Jermaine Matthews, and then bringing in Bryce West and Aaron Scott Jr., and then bringing in Davison Igbinosun in the transfer portal last year. And now in the transfer portal this year, you got him bringing in Caleb Downs. And so those are all huge wins. And you got to look at that and be like, okay, we're getting it done in the secondary right now on the recruiting trail. And Caleb Downs is an immediate upgrade at safety. He's someone you're looking at the safety spots for, like, they might need one more guy to step up in-house. Well, now they got someone externally who can start right away. It's going to be up to Jim Knowles of where he wants Caleb Downs. If you're asking me, I wouldn't move him off the strong safety spot. If you got an All-American player, he wasn't just a freshman All-American, Spencer. He was a second-team AP All-American this season, and that's all players included, not just freshmen. This is someone that can immediately be an upgrade for your defense. He might even just be the best player on the defense automatically. He's that good. He's someone that could be a top 10, top 15 NFL draft pick in 2 years. And when you have a player like that, I feel like you build around that. If that means moving Lathan Ransom to free safety, I think he's capable of doing that. If that means moving Sonny Styles down to linebacker or having him rotate at nickel with Jordan Hancock, this is the kind of player that you build around. And I think you maximize his skill set. He is so effective in the box.
Tim?
Hey, yeah, I think you could see not a revival because they got into it a lot last year, but the 4-2-5. I mean, they've got three possibilities at the safety spots that are as good as anybody in the country. I'm talking about playing three different roles there. The thing about Caleb Downs is this isn't some pie in the sky. Man, I hope this guy pans out, kind of dude. Davison Igbinosun started, 10 games as a freshman at Ole Miss before he transferred to Ohio State. But he was still a little bit in some people's eyes. He was going to stir the drink, a little bit in that cornerback room. If, in fact, there is a cornerback room anymore. I think it's just a big revival meeting of defensive backs now. But he was a guy that you thought had the possibilities. Caleb Downs, what he's all about. As the old saying goes, just turn on the video. And where you can take a defense now from a big play standpoint or trying to force things is much more in the forefront, I think, for Jim Knowles and Ryan Day and this Ohio State defense than it was even this time a year ago. And I heard some people were asking, saw where some people were asking, well, the school year's already started and all this kind of stuff. Well, I almost bumped into Davison Igbinosun as he was walking into the building last February on signing day. I think it was signing day when he had come up from Ole Miss. So that was in February. You can make miracles happen academically for the people who are worthy, and that will be the case now. But like I said, turn on the video. There's nothing you don't like about this guy. This guy seems to have great instincts to begin with. Number two, he seemed to play within that Alabama system extremely well. And number three, for a safety, the biggest thing is, he can make plays from an interception standpoint, but he will come up and hit you just like Lathan Ransom will, just like Sonny Styles will, just like Malik Hartford. So, wow. This room looks really stout right now, the safety room. The safety cubbyhole of the defensive secondary room.
No, it's a safety room. You could say that.
And by the way, just like with Jesse Owens, you become a much better coach when you're coaching somebody like Jesse Owens or Caleb Downs, if you follow my drift there.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best freshman in America last year. He's the best defensive back on this roster, and I'm not afraid to say that. I'll be okay saying that. I watched him at Alabama all year. The thing that sticks out to me about Caleb Downs, he had freshman moments. Okay, we're not going to sit up here and say he's Brian Dawkins. He's not the greatest safety. He's not Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, but he had freshman moments. He was, a lot of people like to talk about when he was run over by the South Florida running back there at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
A couple times Michigan got the best of him on certain plays. But here's the thing about Caleb Downs. Every time that he had a freshman moment, he had a senior moment. And he got up and he had a very nice play very quickly after that. And look at the way that he was in the box stopping the run. This is a guy who stops the run like a linebacker from the safety spot. He's so quick that he gets downhill. I think I heard multiple national experts call him the best Alabama safety since Minkah Fitzpatrick. And people think Minkah Fitzpatrick's the best pound-for-pound football player Nick Saban ever coached. So, that praise right there is enough to get you excited if you're Ohio State. One thing I wanted to bring up here early in the video and early in the show is I got a quote from the Alabama On3 guy, Charlie Potter. He does a great job over at Bama Online about who Caleb Downs is. And he said, he was consistently praised by Nick Saban and his teammates for being mature beyond his years. He was a robot, but in a good way. The coaches trusted him, including returning punts in the second half of the season, and he answered the bell every time. He's a punt returner. He's good in coverage. He's decent in coverage. He's going to get better in coverage, and he has to get better in coverage. He's an avid tackler. He loves contact. He's not going to shy away from anything like that. And he can do real damage with the ball in his hand, Andy. There's not really a lot that you could ask Caleb Downs that he wouldn't be able to do for Ohio State.
Yeah, and I talk about how I think he should be a strong safety, but the bottom line is he could play at any of the safety spots, and Jim Knowles wants his safeties to play at any of the safety spots. You look at where they lined him up last year for Alabama, 287 snaps at deep safety, 285 in the box, 268 in the slot, 28 on the corner, 21 on the defensive line. Again, I said the bottom line, you can move him where you want. I do think he is most effective in the box, closer to the action as a tackler, as you guys just described about how quick he is getting to the ball and how he kind of has a nose for where the action is. But I do think he has the talent and the skill set to be able to be moved around anywhere, which is characteristic of the safeties in this 4-2-5 system for Jim Knowles. And the other thing I'll say, I was mentioning before the show, it's not unprecedented for Jim Knowles to make a move with one of his veteran safeties. Ronnie Hickman was moved from what was the bullet in the previous defensive system to the adjuster free safety spot when Knowles came in 2022. So it's possible that they move Lathan Ransom. It's also possible maybe they stick with Lathan Ransom at strong safety and they say, hey, Caleb Downs, you can make it work at free safety. But I do think we can be very confident in saying those are the two. They're going to be in those deep safety spots, Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs. And then that brings up the question, guys, what do they do with Sonny Styles? And I think that's a really interesting question to kind of look at because you definitely want someone of that caliber on the field, but you might need to get kind of creative with where to put them.
These guys, all three of these guys that you just named are flexible in the sense of where you can play them. And I think that's what you're going to see more than anything else. I think you're going to, Jim knows you can have a quote free 1 minute and you can have a strong safety the next. I mean, you can flip these guys and keep the other, basically, disguise your defenses just by how those guys play. I mean, I think it's very interesting, maturing moment for the Jim Knowles defense is what I think, and from the standpoint of having all kinds of ways you can go. Spence called Caleb Downs an avid tackler. I think what stands out about him too is he's an avid angler. He gets to the ball, and of course my alarm's going off late. He gets to the ball, and what I've seen on video, did he get trucked a couple of times? Yeah, absolutely. He was a freshman, but was he there to get trucked? Yes. You know what I mean? So that's what I like about him. You can't gush too much, I don't think, about this guy. Ohio State wanted him to begin with, right? I mean, he should have been out there trucking for Ohio State last year defensively. Didn't work out. Ohio State, I guess we're going to talk about this probably in a minute, I would think we were, but Ohio State has embraced this offseason like no other team, and I'm talking about in terms of bringing in people who can help you, people from credible programs. Kansas State, laugh if you want. Kansas State's a big-time credible program now offensively. Look who they got. Alabama, we know who Alabama was. It'll be interesting to see who Alabama is after the big coaching change. But you're getting basically 2 starters from Alabama from last year that played in the college football playoff. Just right on down the line, Ryan Day and his staff have helped themselves, and Caleb Downs is a great example of that. Matter of fact, he may be the ultimate example.
He is the ultimate example, Tim. I prescribe to the theory and look at the NFL playoffs that are about to happen right now. The quarterback is the most important position on the field, and I fully understand that. And I think Will Howard is an upgrade at quarterback. You look at all the pieces that went around him compared to the piece around Kyle McCord, I think Will Howard is an upgrade at quarterback. I think Quinshon Judkins is an incredible running back and a great add for Ohio State. Seth McLaughlin may be the key that unlocks this entire offensive line, because if you can get an established starter in there at center and get those snapping issues fixed, you can fix the rest of the offensive line. He's seen a lot. He's been through those battles. Nothing that they've done this offseason, including hiring Bill O'Brien, compares to what they just did landing Caleb Downs. Because, and I want to get your take on this, because in my opinion, this unlocks multiple new layers of where Jim Knowles can take this. If he chooses to keep Caleb Downs at strong safety and move Lathan Ransom into free safety, you can formation match and flip those guys however you want, and no one will ever know where your safeties are, because They do one of the same things, but they also have some unique skill sets. If that happens, Sonny Styles automatically goes down into the box, whether that be at nickel in formations or just as a linebacker, and you get a 3-man rotation, take some of that weight off of CJ Hicks as he goes into his first year as a starter. If that happens, CJ can play a little bit more down on near the line of scrimmage because Sonny can play linebacker. And if that happens, you have flexibility to do whatever you want with Arvell Reese. I think this is the kind of move, the chess piece, that Jim Knowles needed to get the personnel and the talent level, the personnel to match the kind of defense he wanted to run Oklahoma State, and the talent level to run it effectively at Ohio State. And if you put those two things together, finally, in year 3 of his defense, I don't know who's scoring on this team. And I don't mean to be like hyperbolic or to stand here with the microphone for 5 minutes while you guys just stare at me. But like, I go through this schedule and I truly find it very hard to find a team that is going to score on this defense, maybe Oregon. And like, that sounds crazy on January 20th. And I told people that I wasn't going to go into this offseason saying this team should win a national championship like we do every year, Tim. But like,
no, I think what we say is that this team can win a national championship. You know, there are a lot of stumbling blocks between here and getting. I mean, I agree. I mean, I thought last year this team had the wherewithal, if the offensive line came around, to win a national championship. Still believe that. I still believe, you know, there were certain things that happened in certain games, but like you're getting to, Spence, this is as solid a team from number 1 to number 22 possible starters, that I think I'm talking about as a group that we've covered in the Ryan Day era. I think you agree with that, don't you? Maybe 2019, maybe, but this group, wow, every piece they've added matches where they want to go. If you follow my drift, with their offense and with their defense. More depth at running back, a guy that can run over you, and a guy that you give him a step can run through you and past you. I'm talking about Judkins and Travion Henderson. And, of course, Dallin Hayden, you know, the guy we keep forgetting. And then defensively, you know, Lathan Ransom, it's not just that he's going to come back and how good he was before he got hurt last year. He's going to take another step from a mental standpoint in this defense. That's crazy to think about. Same with Sonny Styles, you know, the real flexible guy in this whole thing. It's legit to say that this guy, you without changing personnel, you can go from a 4-2-5 to a 4-3-4 in the snap of a finger. That's not hyperbole. Just look at where you think Sonny Styles is going to be from a physical development situation coming out of the offseason and the spring football. It's kind of crazy, the pieces, because all the other pieces have come back. You know, Ty Hamilton, you know, and we could talk about all these other guys, but Ty Hamilton next to Tyleik Williams and then you bring back the 2 bookend defensive ends. It's crazy where this defense can go from a starter standpoint. They still got to bring some guys along in the backup roles, but I mean, I don't think it's hyperbole at all to talk about this team of saying what this team's goal should be, because it's legit.
Andy?
I think we need to touch on the NIL aspect of this all, because there's certainly an NIL aspect to bringing in Caleb Downs. And I think that this has been momentum building for Ohio State with the collectives that they have, the Foundation, Cohesion Foundation, 1870 Society. All of these collectives seem to be ponying up and helping Ohio State get this done from a roster standpoint, which is so key at this point in college football. It's also interesting with the timing of an incoming AD in Ross Bjork, who's known for his fundraising success, known for his NIL success at Texas A&M. And this is a situation he's entering. It's already on the up. It's already building momentum. And getting Caleb Downs is a huge sign of that. But also retaining 11 players who could have gone to the NFL draft and made an impact somewhere on an NFL team is also part of the equation with the NIL part of this thing. So there's a lot happening right now for Ohio State in the NIL space that has to be extremely encouraging for Ohio State fans. Of course, fans can be part of that. Donors, alumni, they're all part of that equation, which I think can be an exciting thing for the fan base in itself to play a role in this process. But that is something that can't go unnoticed right now. Georgia had everything in this equation lined up on its side. First of all, Caleb Downs is from Georgia. Second of all, the Georgia coaching staff is littered with defensive back expertise. Kirby Smart played defensive back, coached defensive backs early in his career. You have Will Muschamp, who's a defensive analyst now for Georgia, played defensive back, coached defensive backs early in his career. And then Alabama's cornerbacks coach, secondary coach, comes over to Georgia after Nick Saban retires and is now the co-DC and safeties coach for Georgia. So Caleb Downs not only could have returned close to home, but he could also have played for a familiar face at Georgia. I'm just setting the table for, if people don't know, all the context that was on Georgia's side to get this done. Ohio State still, you have to imagine NIL played a big role in that, but so did the roster that Ohio State's building, which is also partly because of NIL. So I think that's just a huge part of this that we need to touch on, because this was a dragon slaying win in the NIL space, in the recruiting space, transfer portal space, all of it for Ohio State.
Yeah, I think it's important, Andy. And, the Michigan National Championship obviously woke a lot of people up. And there have always been businesses that have been okay with giving Ohio State players some money. You look at, just to name one, Reichert has given, cars and stuff to Ohio State players through NIL deals. That's great. But a lot of the donations that I've seen recently have been small money people. No offense. We are considered small money people. The blue collar and even the white collar workers of Ohio who tweet the foundation and the 1870 Society their donation and scribble out the little number. I know you're not giving $10,000. You're giving 20s and 10s and 50s and 100. That stuff adds up. And for so long, Ohio State fans were convinced that their $20 wouldn't make a difference. Their $50 wouldn't make a difference. Well, we're sitting here recording a video 1 year from the national championship game. The national championship game is January 20th, 2025. And I will give credit to Ohio State fans who have stepped up. And I don't like that in college football right now, you have to ask 9-to-5ers to pay these athletes in order to get them to stay at your school. But if that's the model, Ohio State is crushing the model. And we talked for a while about how, Ohio State was behind in NIL, but when everything kind of starts to level out, Ohio State would be in a better place than most schools, because Ohio State was doing it the way that they saw that it was going, not the way that it was constructed in that time. Like Texas A&M was taking advantage of it when it was happening in that time. Now, it's starting to level out, and Ohio State is still doing the same thing on NIL, but just doing it at a higher level, and you're seeing it rise to the top. It's incredible to watch, and I think you're right, Andy. Caleb Downs is a great example of this. Both collectives, the Foundation and the 1870 Society, were celebrating on social media on Friday evening. That's not by accident. They want you to know that your dollars that you're giving them are going to the places that you want them to go. They're going to the safety room. They're going to the offensive line room with Seth McLaughlin. They're going to the quarterback position. They're going to Quinshon Judkins. They're going to Emeka Ibuka to keep him around, and Travion Henderson and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, and as Tim May likes to say, right on down the line. I mean, like, this is something that, like, it's working. And so Caleb Downs is the latest example of that, Tim.
This sounds trite, but Buckeye Nation is a real thing. I mean,
yeah.
Buckeye Nation has more population than any other college football nation or college nation out there, just from living, breathing alumni who really give a damn, and sometimes it takes a while to get a glacier moving, but boy, when it starts moving, that's where icebergs come from. And that's what you're seeing right now, man. I mean, you're seeing everything come to fruition. Is, instead of everybody griping about a third down call or a fourth down call or a fourth down slip by a defensive back or whatever, everybody understands the possibilities now, and more people are jumping on board. The thing, as I've said, down at Texas A&M, when you pass the plate, as I call it, as the old saying goes in the Southern Baptist Church, at the end when you pass the plate for donations, they've got like maybe 20 guys down there, and they come up with a heck of a bag of whatever you want to call it, wherewithal. Let's call it that. Heck of a bag of wherewithal. With Ohio State, you can pass the plate, and you can have 500 people maybe giving half of what those 20 or 100 were given at Texas A&M, but they can come up with the exact same bag. And that's not saying Ohio State doesn't have big-time alums who could dip into their pockets just like Texas A&M and some of these other Southern schools do. But when you get all those people, and I'm going to mix my analogies here, when you get all those people rowing the boat, I'm talking about in Buckeye Nation, in the same direction, it is stunning. Not only the power that's involved, but the speed of which that boat can move. And you're seeing it right in front of your eyes right now. And you got to play in the NIL realm to compete now, and everybody gets it, or most people get it. Maybe a few fuddy-duddies who want to go back to the 70s. It's not going back there. This boat is moving right down this canal, headed to wherever we're headed. Who knows where it is? But this boat's rowing with anybody, in my opinion, in the nation. And I think it's profound, the difference between now and 2 years ago with the way Ohio State is playing in the NIL space, or having that wherewithal to attract players. And the proof right now is just on the roster.
Andy, closing thought?
I just think it's very poetic that, you're bringing in a couple of Alabama players, maybe a couple more, who knows? And
Yeah.
Alabama just lost to Michigan in the college football playoff, and Ohio State's lost 3 straight games to Michigan. And there's certainly a chip on the shoulder of every Ohio State player, and there's certainly a chip on the shoulder of the Alabama players coming in to join Ohio State now. And I think that's, you talk about culture fit. Well, they all can share the hatred of the team up north, as they call it. And now, I think that fits in really well to what this Ohio State team is trying to do. Not only beat Michigan, but win a Big Ten title, win a national title. And you're kind of setting the table here for, you guys said it, maybe the most talented roster, certainly since 2019. And maybe you have to go further than that to figure out, okay, when's the last time they've had this many pieces? The defense is going to be elite. I think we can all be confident in saying that, barring any ridiculous amount of injuries. And now this softens kind of the pressure on the offense. The offense is still going to have to deliver. The offensive line is still going to have to deliver. But when you have a defense like this, I mean, this is the way we talked about the defense in 2023. It was, this defense is going to show up on the road. It's going to show up at home. It's going to show up in a neutral site. And it did all season. And now it's going to be up to the offense to kind of match pace. But you have to just be really excited, because at the beginning of this month, it was all Ohio State is downward trending. The Cotton Bowl, what was that? Their lowest AP poll ranking in years. And now, 3 weeks later, the tenor has completely changed, and people are seeing Ohio State as a national title contender again, maybe the national title favorite, and all of these things have happened. So it just reminds you, as Tim has said this month, they're winning the month of January, and how quickly things can change in college football.
Hey, January's not over.
No, it is not. Really quickly, very quickly, I want one word from each of you, and I'm going to give one word as well before I close us out here. Tim May, yes or no, is Ohio State the preseason number one?
Yes, that was hard for me to do.
Andy?
Yes, now, yes. Yeah, I think so.
If you're
I'm
paying
gonna say-
attention, how could they not be? I'm talking about the talent on hand and the talent that's returning, and they've added. How could they not be? That's more than yes. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say no and play devil's advocate there. I think it's going to still be Georgia, but because they have the quarterback back and defense back. But we're going to break that all down here very soon as we get into roster previews, as we get into spring ball previews.
Wait a minute. I felt set up there. Didn't you, Andy? Didn't you feel set up? I just said yes because I'm telling you, fellas, I've been covering this team for it's going on 41 years, and I've never seen this is a phenomenon right now of what's gone on. Like Andy pointed out in the last 3 weeks, it's a phenomenon, and you don't. I hope Ohio State fans are taking a snapshot of this every day because in this modern era, with the lure of the National Football League, with the lure of other programs around the country, when things don't go exactly your way, and Ohio State, this is not. This I would not call Ohio State a skydiving team because nobody wants to bail out. They're all jumping on the plane. I'm talking about the people that truly matter are jumping on the plane or jumping back into the plane. So it's more like a passenger plane. They think they're headed somewhere. My analogies are just rolling around in my head right now, like a pool table that just had the big break. But I did feel set up there a little bit by Spencer. But he is right. This is a team that now has to go prove itself, right? I think that's what you're talking about too, Spencer. I mean, when you got your starting quarterback back and the essence of the way Georgia has recruited over the last several years, yeah, you would have to say Georgia would probably be number one. But Alabama, I mean, Ohio State's got to be a close side. I'm already calling them Alabama or Ole Miss now with all these guys from the Southeastern Conference. As the old saying goes, Greg Sankey said one of these things is not like the other. Well, when you look at Ohio State in the Big Ten, the new 18-team Big Ten, Ohio State is not like almost any other team. The closest would be Oregon. I think y'all agree with that, right? From a roster standpoint for 2024. Yeah, I would vote Ohio State number one right now based on who they've not just that they've added people, but who they've added and how vital those people can play a role in making this team different from even the way it was a year ago.
Yeah, Tim, we were going to do a whole video on it, but I think we'll just cut that out and post it on there because you just gave the whole.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, we might as well not even record another video the entire offseason. Ohio State number one to start the country. There you heard it, folks, from Tim May, the 40-year veteran himself. We're going to have full coverage at lettermenrow.com. We never stop. You guys know that. Andy Backstrom in the middle of your screen, Tim May on the other side of that screen, Spencer Holbrook right here, Matt Parker and Alex Gleitman on the recruiting side. We've got plenty more coming, a lot coming at lettermenrow.com. A lot to be excited about. You can come over to lettermenrow.com, join the party, join the fun, bask in the glory of Caleb Downs committing to Ohio State in the Lettermen Lounge message board, and you can do that all for just $1 for your first month. You'll be so hooked by the end of the first month, you won't care how much you have to pay. Tim May's coverage, Andy Backstrom's coverage, Alex Gleitman's coverage, Matt Parker's coverage, and mine, Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the latest rapid reaction as Caleb Downs commits to Ohio State, a massive development for the 2024 and 2025 Buckeyes. We'll see you guys over at lettermenrow.com to break it all down.